Hey guys, so it's great being here today. I'm gonna kind of run through. How much time do I have, by the way?
Any up to 30 minutes. And
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
completely up to you. You could talk for 20, take some questions, up to you.
Okay, great. Cool. So, basically, yeah. So I just want to kind of go. It's great being here. One of the most important things I think with obviously with selling is gonna be handling objections. I don't really know a whole lot of sales that I've had. I've had sales here and there where they don't really give objections. But that's like the 1%. 99% of people you're going to talk to are going to have some sort of objection or concern. Um, and it's really just because they don't wake up planning to buy knives that day. You know, a lot of times when people buy Cutco, it's kind of like, hey, I was just walking by the booth. I saw knives. I've been thinking about it, and here I am. And so the whole process really is about just staying calm, confident, and just in control when someone doesn't immediately say yes instead of just walking away defeated. You just want to stay in the game because objections are typically, they're buying signals. If they weren't interested, they would straight up just tell you, "Hey, I'm not interested. I don't really care." And so an objection is really just what I've always been told is that, objection is just like a request for more information, just to help them feel good about making a decision while they're here. And so going over the script that you guys have here, the first step is really just, it already break it down a little bit, with the objection cycle, we talk about just being positive and being yourself, gathering their information, building rapport, stalling them, clarifying all decisions, and then offering another solution or drop down. So I'm kind of go through each one of those sections by section, and just kind of explain a little bit why we do what we do on there. And so the first one's pretty simple, but super positive, powerful as well. And it's really just being positive and then being yourself. Um, Anytime someone gives an objection, that's usually right when they have their guard up at the highest. People are used to salespeople, and we get a lot of people. I've done this before as well. We get into the motions that as soon as someone gives an objection, we have all these objection handlers memorized, and so we start spitting out these automatic objection handlers and the responses that we give them. But the first thing, really, what you guys should be doing is just acknowledging that they don't feel comfortable making a decision right now. And so it's just about, hey, no problem at all, Mrs. Jones. That's totally cool. I get it. I hear you. And yeah, it totally makes sense. Actually, most people actually have that same sort of objection that you have. Just stay a beat. Your energy affects theirs. If you're super confident and chill, they're gonna just feel safe continuing that conversation. And so, you agree with them, you acknowledge it, and you say, "Hey, that's a totally valid concern," or just a way to feel. And then their guards start to go down a little bit. Like, "Oh yeah, okay, cool. This person's listening to me. He understands. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of money for knives." Or, "Hey, I do got to talk to my spouse," or whatever it is. They get it. Cool. And the second part about it, though, is you definitely want them to think about it. And what we want to do is we want to start stalling. We want to gather their information, build some rapport, and really get them to let them be on. You want to be on their side, but also know that you're on their side as well. Like, hey, whatever your concerns are, like I'm here to help. My goal is to help you, not hurt you. And so first thing, depending what their objection is, I just say, hey, I totally get that. Well, I know you want to think about it, or I know it's a lot of money and it's something you want to digest. Well, hey, really quick before you go, um, can I just let me just write this down for you. That way you just know what it is that you want to think about. And so then you just want to grab their information. As you're grabbing their information, just chat with them. Like, hey, what brought you guys out to the fair today? Did you come here by yourself? Do you have a spouse? What are you most excited about? And then they're just gonna just start making some small talk. Have you guys been here before? Do you guys come out here every year? Hey, I haven't really walked around yet. Like on my next break, like where should I go? Where do you recommend? And then they're just gonna just start chit chatting a little bit. Just anything that just helps feel natural. Just people buy from people that they like and they trust. So if you're just trying to get to know them a little bit, just make some small talk. They're just gonna feel really good about it. So, so yeah, so really quick before you go, get your info so I can send you a catalog just in case you don't make it back. By the way, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. My name's Mohammed. What's your name? Cool. And the second part is just stalling them and just clarifying all the decisions. So hey, I'm gonna write this down for you guys so that we have something to think about. You can walk around and and you can look at it. Um, just to make sure that I have all the right information. If you guys were to get Cutco, like which option are you guys thinking about? Like, are you guys thinking, do you guys think you'd use this set? Do you think you go bigger? Do you think you go smaller? Would you use all the pieces? Like, what are you guys thinking? And then you just write it down. And then that's when they might start saying, well, actually, I don't know. That set is kind of a little too big for me, or I don't know if I'd use all those pieces, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Well, hey, like if you wouldn't use all these pieces, what wouldn't you use? And then they'll start telling you a little bit on there. And now all of a sudden you got the idea like, hey, this set's way too big, or this set's way too small. That's something to think about in a couple minutes when you want to maybe possibly drop down or show them some other options. But you just want to make a mental note of that. Second thing is like, hey, if you guys were to get the set, the set does come in like the dark handle, the white, or the red. Like, what's your favorite color? And then they'll tell you. And then would you guys do honey or cherry? And then would you guys, if you guys were to get the set today, do you think you would just rip the Band-Aid off and do it all at once? Would you just split it up over an easy pay option? What are you guys thinking? And by the way, how they answer these questions really determines like where they're at on the scale. If they're just kind of wishy-washy, well, if I were to get it, where I don't know, like I gotta think about it, this or that, like they're not ready. And so it doesn't really matter what you say because they're being very non-committal. And they're definitely not really sold on the set. So it doesn't really matter what you do at that point. Like they're just like I said, they're being non-committal at that point. So oh, and the last one I forgot was hey, just full transparency, if you really wanted to, I mean, could you swing, the $200 today without breaking the bank? And then they might say yes or no, if that's in the budget or not. And I always say, hey, if you guys really wanted to do this, like I know you may or may not do it, but like if you actually chose to do it, is that something that is realistic for you or not really? And then cool. And then at the bottom is right, make sure you get their information, and then also make sure you have your info as well. And the reason I want to get their information because a lot of people sometimes won't stop back just because maybe they forgot or whatever it was. You can just call them or text them later to just follow up with them. I have had a lot of people actually where they don't come back, and I do text them later, like later that night or the next day, say, hey, it's the last day of the show. What were you guys thinking? And I have closed some deals here and there. And even if they didn't get the set that we wrote down on the deal pad, sometimes we gives me a chance to drop down or figure out a different deal or go from there. So and then after that, you just say, hey, just out of curiosity, by the way, if you guys end up not getting it, is this something that you probably would do down the road? Like, even if you guys didn't get it today, do you guys think you'd get it in the next 6 months? And I want to know those things too, because if they're like 100% for sure not getting it right now, it is an opportunity for you guys to follow up with someone down the road. You can add them to your database, and follow up with them. And like sometimes I've had customers tell me like, oh yeah, well we're moving right now, this or that, blah blah blah. The timing's just not really great. And I say, cool. Well, hey, I actually run a sale this time of year. You mind if I add just my follow-up list in September and we'll see if we can get it then. And then sometimes it's literally just a timing thing. But outside of that, you can go, hey, the reason I ask is after working some events now, I've learned that is that we don't always have to see everyone again, just for which by the way is no big deal. Sometimes it happens, they just go home, they totally forget about it, they're walking around, they get tired. Next thing you know, it's a lot closer to get to the car than it is to come back to the knife booth. Your kids are tired and hungry, and they're cranky and you're tired. And it's just not really always like a giant priority. And I totally get it. But hey, just curious, Mrs. Jones, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like this is for sure something you're 100% going to do today, and 1 being not so much, where do you sit on that scale? And you want to kind of feel them out. If they're like 1, 0, whatever, like they're like I'm not even interested. Then at that point, there's really nothing you can really do about it. Like they're not into it. If they say 10, by the way, that are also not interested, just from experience. Like if it's a 10, they would be giving you a credit card. And I've called people out before on that. If they say, yeah, 10, I 100% want it. I'm like, well, Mrs. Jones, if this was a 10, like I'd have your credit card right now. So you're not at a 10. It's totally okay, by the way, not being at a 10, but like, you know, where are you at? And if they're still like trying to be really adamant about like being at a really high scale, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, if you're serious about doing it, because I just asked, like, what's the probability of you doing this scale 1 to 10? You just said 10. That means it's for sure. Like, what? Shoot me straight. Like, what's holding you back? And sometimes I'll have fun with it. Depending on the rapport you have, you can just be like, be like, you can kind of be really like really upfront and like direct with them. But most people are going to be somewhere in like the 6, 7, maybe 8. Those are like the really good numbers. That actually means that you can probably close that sale. And so people don't, by the way, need to be at a 10 to order. They just need to be above a 6. That's really it. And so it's just like, hey, because if they're above a 6, it just means that they're more likely to do it than not do it. And so if they give you like a 6 or a 7, I say, hey, cool. And I tell them that it's like, cool, Mrs. Jones. So sounds like you're more likely to do it than not do it. If I could do something for you, to get you to like a 7 or an 8, can I tempt you? And that's when they're like, yeah, sure. Let's. What do you got? Then you know that they're serious, and then you know that hey, you gotta offer some sort of deal, or you got some sort of drop down option. So so right there, it's basically, hey, I'll tell you what. And at this point, where there's a couple different ways you could do it. If you want to do some goal sharing, you can do that. You try to figure out exactly what it is, like what their number one objection is, whether it's like, if it's really like a price thing, or if it's just, hey, they just want a better deal, or just, they just are just being non-committal. Just kind of figure it out. But just be like, hey, I'll tell you what. Hey, Mr. Jones, this is the last day of the show. I have this really big goal they're trying to hit this weekend, so every order matters. I know it probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but it means a ton to me. And I always share that too, because some people just really don't care about your goals. And I just like straight up like, hey, I know this isn't probably super important to you, but it means a whole lot to me. So if I was to do something just a little extra special for you, it's just an extra incentive for you to make a decision right now. I mean, would you be open to it since you're already here? And that's really it. I don't like promote. A lot of people like try to say, hey, if I just gave you like a killer turbocharged, like super crazy deal, blah blah blah, would you be doing it? And I don't really like, you don't need to do that sometimes. Sometimes it's just literally just an extra peeler. It's an extra like $50 off on the set. You don't have to do anything super crazy. Just say, but hey, if I just go out of my way and do something just a little extra special for you, would you do it? And then they might say yes or no. The other thing about it as well is that if you guys, I have had this happen before where I say, hey, if I give you a super turbo killer deal, blah, blah, blah. And then they come back and like, is that it? Like that's not really that great of a deal. And even if I did give them like if I gave them an extra pair of scissors, or, if it's been years since I've done this, but if I had to like B-block like a set or something like that, I did give like what I thought was a really great deal. And they're like, is that seriously the best you can do? And I'm like, what the heck? Like, this is actually a really great deal. So I always just change my mindset, saying it's not going to be a super crazy turbo incentive, whatever you want to call it. I just say, hey, if I just went out of my way, just did something a little extra special for you, just so you felt really good about making a decision while you're here. And that gives me a lot more room to, a little extra special means a little bit different to everything. But hey, just figure out what would be that idea. And then, like I mentioned before, if they're below a 5, they're not really, it doesn't seem like they'd be that interested. It's probably not the set for them. And I would just say, hey, you know what? Like, it sounds like this probably isn't. I actually will at that point sell them off the set, and I want them to know, like, hey, I actually don't think this is a really good set for you. I might recommend something else instead. Would you be interested in seeing those other options that I actually think would be even better than this one? And people aren't used to that. As a salesperson, a lot of people expect you to just want to sell on the biggest and best or whatever. I always tell people, Mr. Jones, I don't really care what you buy as long as you buy something. So what's going to happen is you're going to get the one piece, you're going to get the small starter set, whatever. You're going to fall in love with it, and then next year you're going to come back and you're going to want more, and then next year I'll just get you the rest of it. So I don't really care when you get it. as long as you get something, because I'll be your Cutco person forever. So um, so yeah, so you're gonna drop. Well, if there's a five below, you want to drop down and kind of listen to what they told you earlier. Whether they use all the pieces or the block set or and all that kind of stuff. And then based off what they told you and what you're kind of hearing, you can kind of throw out a couple different ideas. I always like to drop down slowly. We had some people, and I used to do this a whole bunch before when I was um, just trying to get like to a quick close or something like that, where I would go from like an ultimate to a signature to a homemaker, and then from a homemaker to like a five piece. But sometimes it's literally just going from like a homemaker to the galley set, just because they didn't want a carving knife or something, something really silly like that. And then you can always drop back up after you get a credit card. I've had people, they will drop down to like a five piece, and the next thing I know, I say, hey, do you want to put a block on there? And they're like, yeah, I want to get a block. And then they're like, do you want some steak knives? Yeah, some steak knives. Well, hey, by the way, this set has a couple holes in it. Do you just want to fill in the holes? And they're like, yeah, sure, whatever. And what happened is we went, from a homemaker down to a five piece. And it's just because they just like those five pieces more than whatever came in the homemaker set. And then they're like, well, we have to have steak knives. We have to have this. And then just ended up being like a custom set. And so I always just go down one step at a time, where just um, drop down from a homemaker to a galley, and then from a galley to a five piece, and then kind of go from there. And every time you drop down, just be like, hey, you probably like, I always like to make sure your excitement goes up a little bit. If they're going from a homemaker to a galley, I might sell them off with a butcher knife. Like, hey, you guys probably won't even need this. Like, how often do you guys really butchering pigs and chickens? And they're like, yeah, you're right. I would never use that knife. Like, cool. Well, this set actually, then this is not the set you want. Same with like the turkeys and hams and roast, or if they're like, hey, I'm a vegan or whatever. They say, hey, this, I don't even know why I was showing this to you. I was, yeah, this set's actually the one. This is our vegan set, or whatever you want to call it. From there. And then just doing that as well, by the way, gives them more time to kind of like, as you're dropping down slowly and as you're trying to figure out what they really like and what they don't like, it just gives them a lot more time to kind of marinate on like, hey, yeah, maybe I can spend $1,000 in knives, or hey, it's not that big of a deal. Like, I've already spent this much money at the fair already. What's an extra, $100, $200? And so it's just kind of just, you're just stalling to make them feel just really good about uh stalling, so that way they feel really weird about not without leaving without the set. They're like, you want them to kind of form a little bit of attachment to the set, if that makes sense. So they don't want to give it up. They're like, hey, I'll figure it out. And then just having confidence and having patience too is the other thing as well. Let them sit. I will pause. I'll let them think about it as much as they need to think about it. I kind of like sit back a little bit sometimes if the husband and the wives, if they're together and they're like looking at pieces. I'll just let them have a conversation until I feel like it's a good time to add my 2 cents in there. And sometimes you just get one person that just sells the other person on the set, and then they're like, yeah, we'll do it. Okay. Um, it does work the other way too. Sometimes if you wait too long, and maybe one person will sell off the other person, so you also have to listen to what they're saying to make sure that they one doesn't one's not super negative about it. But anyways, yeah. So you're just kind of just be patient, and then just ask and go from there. Um, Common objections. Um, there's a few that pretty much come up every single time, so you should expect that. Like, I just know that people are going to want to think about things before they make a decision. So there's multiple different ways to handle the objections. One is you can handle it up in the beginning when you're talking about the guarantee. You say, hey, most people, and I'll make a joke about it, most people don't wake up and say, hey, let's buy knives today, and they can't come to the fair. So that's why actually part of our forever guarantees, we do have 15-day money back guarantee. So I know you're not here with your spouse, so if you guys didn't want to get this set, you actually can try it out together with them and use it and make a decision that way. Or you kind of spin it however you want to, but you can handle those objections up in the beginning. You still probably will have to handle it again later at the end. But then it's just like, hey, remember when I mentioned earlier how we have that money back guarantee? So I know you said you want to think about it. Well, this is the best way to do it, and you can try it out this way. Um, The other one is I need to talk to my spouse. Um, there's a couple different ways to handle this one, and there's a couple different scenarios and how you might need to handle this one too. One is if they come up to the booth without their spouse, and like their spouse is just not there at the event, like they're at home or working or whatever. With that one, you just like, hey, yeah, I totally get it. Like, I wouldn't want you to get divorced over Cutco. Smile, laugh, but you obviously, you probably know your I'll pause and I'll say, hey, by the way, how long have you guys been together for? And they're like, oh, I've been together, we've been together for 10 years, 20 years. Oh, cool, that's awesome. Well, you probably know your spouse better than anyone. Like if they were here, and they saw the cut code, they used it, blah blah blah. How do you think they would feel about it? Like, what do you think? What do you think they would say? And then they'll either be like, yeah, they'd probably be okay with it, but I still want to talk to them about it. And and you're like, and then that's when you go back to what I mentioned earlier. Say, hey, I totally get it. I understand. You know, and then remind them about the guarantee on there. The other thing as well, something new that I've learned earlier this year, which is actually which has been pretty fun. I've tried it a couple times. Um, is they say, hey, I want to talk to my spouse, and I'm like, okay, cool. They're at home right now. They're at work or wherever. Hey, can we play a game? This one you gotta have fun with it too. You gotta have some confidence when you do this one. But yeah, so I've done this a couple times this year and it's worked out actually pretty well. But I say, hey, do you guys want to play a game? And they're like, sure, whatever. Yeah, let's play truth or dare. What do you want to do? And then they're gonna give you one of two answers. They're gonna say truth or they're gonna say dare. And a lot of times, just because most of the time they typically will say truth the first time and then you just kind of call them out on it. And they say, really, you're gonna be that guy, you're gonna be that girl, like come on. And that's fine, no matter what. Well, hey, truth, and then you ask them a question. And what you would ask them is like, hey, if they were here, what do you think they would say? Cool. Well, do you think they would really divorce you if you guys were to get it? And then they'd be like, no, probably not. But they might do this or that. They might get some sort of objection. So kind of you just say truth and ask them, like, just try to be really direct with them. The second part about it, if they say dare, is I say, hey, do you have your phone on you? Cool. Well, I dare you to call your spouse right now. And let's actually get them on the phone and let's ask them what they think about it. And they'll actually sometimes they'll just pick up the phone and they'll call them, they'll put it on speakerphone and say, hey, I'm at the show, blah blah blah. Let's chat about it. And then what you could do, and I like to actually have them on FaceTime if they can do FaceTime if they have an iPhone. And then I will actually like go through a whole demo with them right there on the phone. Or like a really quick abbreviated one, basically. And it's happened twice now where I've done that. I've probably only done it a handful of times this year, but you do the demo over the phone with them right there, and they're like, yeah, sure, whatever, I don't really care. A lot of times, like it's the spouse doesn't care that much. I think they just wanted the other person to be involved in the decision making process, just because they felt like it was a team decision, not just like a solo decision. And so by having them like do that FaceTime and have them redo the demo, it helps them feel a lot better about them talking together. And then sometimes if you really wanted to, you can just say, hey, if you guys need to go talk privately really quick, I got something I gotta do, and you can let them like go on the phone and chat about it for like 2 or 3 minutes, whatever they gotta do. The other situation that happens sometimes that you're there with the spouse and the spouse isn't very interested in the whole demo, the knives or anything like that, because they don't do any of the cookings, they're not involved. And so as the spouse is about to walk away, I acknowledge that and I call them out right there too. Say, hey, sounds like you're not very interested in this. Does so and so, does your wife, your husband, whoever, since you don't really care about the knives in the kitchen or anything like that, do they have your permission to get whatever they want? And then they'll either say, yeah, they're their own person, they can do whatever they want, I don't really care, whatever. And then at that point, you're like, if they give you that objection later down the road, because then you're going to finish your demo a lot of times typically. So they'll a lot of times the spouse will leave like halfway through the beginning of the presentation or whatever. Then hey, remember when your husband walked away? He said you can do whatever you want. He doesn't really care. So what do you think? And then they're like, yeah, you're right. He really doesn't care. I guess maybe I'll do something about it. Or if the spouse is like, hey, I do actually know they don't have permission to buy anything, then I'll be like, hey, well, it sounds like this is really important to your spouse right here. Are you okay like hanging out a little bit and like kind of seeing why they're really interested, or do you want to be part of this decision making process? And yeah, you can guilt them a little bit and say, hey, this is really important to like your wife right here, or your husband or whoever. Like, don't you think it's worth an extra 2, 3 minutes to like just be here to help them make a decision to see if it's something they want to do? And they're like, okay, fine, whatever. And then you try to find a couple different ways to engage them a little bit more. You might have to ask them some more questions. Hey, if it's a husband, do they barbecue or grill or whatever? But really just try to keep them both together. Or like I said, if they're gonna walk away, then just make sure like I just call them out and say, hey, does this so and so have your permission to spend some money without you here? And then like, yeah, they have their own credit card. We don't care. So that's a couple of different ones on there. The other ones, do you have a card or website? This one I also find a lot of times is usually if someone that's not always super serious, and I'd be like, yeah, I can totally get you that info. Just so I do have to warn you though, my cards don't cut as well as the knives do. Um, but all in seriousness, and then you kind of explain, yeah, I can definitely get you a card. And I actually personally just save I have my contact card in there, and I just text it to them nowadays. I don't hand out a whole lot of paper cards. Mainly just because I want people lose cards all the time. And so I just say, hey, I'm just text it to you, just save it. So when you need something, I'm already in your phone. If they don't want to give you their cell phone number, like if they're interested, like they'll be like, yeah, sure, like, yeah, you can send me your contact card or whatever. If they're like, no, I just want a card or whatever, and they're not really that interested in like sharing information. For me personally, I just find that a lot of times they're just not really that interested. They're just looking for an excuse to leave politely. And I just kind of let them go a little bit. I mean, I'll tell them about the website and that kind of stuff. I do ask them like their seriousness on like a scale of 1 to 10. You can go through the objection cycle that way. But it's really the whole point is just kind of going through and same thing, dropping down, figure out what they want, and then just the normal objection cycle there. And then the last one typically is, hey, we just got here, or our car's parked right over there, so we're gonna see you when you come back. And yeah, hey, I totally get that. Absolutely, I get that a lot, especially in the space we're here. That's actually why we're here. So we wanted to be the first person you guys see, so you can spend all your money here before you go somewhere else. No, I'm just kidding. But just curious, hypothetically, like if you guys didn't make it back this way, or is this something that you guys do want, or are you guys serious about, or whatever? And then they might be like, yeah, yes or no, and then you just grab their info, write a deal pad for them, go through the whole objection cycle, and then go that way as well. Trying to think if there's any other major objections off the top of my head right now. Money is another one. Hey, switch money. Then you just kind of figure out where their price point is, and then I always like to just drop down at that point. Hey, it's better to get something than nothing. And so I get a lot of people all the time that they're like, hey, I'd love to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it all at one time, and I'm not going to worry about doing a small set and doing a bigger one later. And like, yeah, you can totally do that. And a lot of people do think that way sometimes, but here's the deal, Mrs. Jones. I heard this one earlier today, but it's, have you ever tried to like look up plane tickets before? And like they're really expensive, and you're kind of hoping that like if you want to think about it, if you came back later, the price would be a little cheaper. And then you come back actually like a couple of days later, and it's actually double the price. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to say that Cutco is going to be double in price next time you see us, but our prices do go up every single year just because cost inflation and this and that. And so if it is something that you guys are thinking about, I'd hate for you guys to wait on it and then have to pay more. From experience, it's always better to have some Cutco than no Cutco. Um, and so do you mind if I show you a couple other options that maybe you guys would really like that would probably fit in the budget? And then when you guys are ready, by the way, we do have a really cool upgrade program that I can tell you about as well. And then you can kind of explain that a little bit. And I'll have a lot of people that will get super sold on like the bigger sets, and then you tell them about the upgrade program how they don't really pay that much more to upgrade down the road. Um, and then they'll just start off with something small, and then if you want to, you can go through the objection cycle that way too. But I think that's it. Those are all the objections I got.
Awesome. Well, that was an awesome walkthrough of the main objections that you can get at the booth and some great key phrases and ways to handle it. Does anybody have any questions for Mohammed?
What do you do if the couple is talking about it and one gets a bit negative? Yeah, so that's a great question. So I kind of figure out what are they being negative about. And is it too much money? Is it usually the one that's negative, by the way, is the one that doesn't do any of the cooking. It's the one that just like, you know, um, has no interest in it at all. And so I acknowledge that too. I'm like, hey, sounds like you're not really that excited about the knives, or hey, it's too much money or whatever. I'm just curious. You know, how does it? What's the best way to phrase that? So I call them out on that a little bit. Say, hey, just so I have an idea. Like, I'll ask them too. I don't make the assumptions. From experience, I know that the answer is, but I don't want to make assumptions. Say, hey, just kind of curious, who does most of the cooking? Okay, cool. Hey, Mrs. Jones, can you tell me like what's your knife situation right now? And I let them kind of explain it a little bit and say, hey, okay, cool. So the knives really suck. You've been complaining about them for a long time. You want to get some new stuff. Um, and I kind of just walk them through like, here's all the reasons why so and so is really excited about this. I know you're not really excited about this, but I mean, wouldn't you agree that like happy wife, happy life? And I kind of just let them know like, hey, like I totally get it if you're not interested, but like this is really important to like your spouse. So can we figure out some sort of compromise that like where even if we didn't get the big set, maybe if you guys want to try out one or two pieces, see if you guys really like it. And if she's really happy, she's going to complain a whole lot less, and then it's a win-win for everyone. She's going to cook a whole bunch of meals for you, blah blah blah. And I kind of just like figure out where's the negativity coming from, basically. I don't want to like fully call them out on why they're being negative. I just kind of acknowledge like, hey, are you actually involved in the decision making process? No, you're not, or like not involved in the decision making process. Are you actually involved in cooking or finances or whatever? And sometimes they're like, hey, I don't contribute financially, or I don't do that. Like it's just like their money, whatever. And it's just they're just being like kind of like a sourpuss. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I did. And yeah, I just figured out, is there a way can we just come up with a compromise? Is basically really the short answer of that. And that's it. Um, Compromise and try to make them both happy.
That's a great one. Anybody else have questions? And hello to Mo's dog.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mo, for all of the insights and for your time today. We appreciate having you, and hope you have a good night.
Well, thanks. See you later.
See ya.